So please feel free to ask questions. I'm going to have them introduce themselves in a second. We have Wendy Heath. We have Robert Beatty, Sarah Powell, Mike Vincent, Gabriel Tate, and Kevin Stanton. All right, I'll go ahead and have each of you guys give a quick little explanation of why you're on the panel. That'd be perfect.
I'm Robert Beatty.
Can you speak up, please?
There we go. Talk into it.
My name is Robert Beatty, and I was asked to give a talk this afternoon, which is on the schedule. As part of that, I was asked to sit on this panel. I said, why not? I may be the token theist in the event today. Kai assured me that you'd go easy on me. And perhaps easier than the theists that might frown on my participation in any way in such an event. But here I am, a retired federal bureaucrat with something to say if you'll care to attend this afternoon and maybe at this panel meeting.
My name is Gabriel Tate. I'm a physics major, math minor at Colorado State. I'm a senior. I'm particularly interested in the clash that comes in terms of morality between theists and non-theists.
Kevin Stanton. I teach philosophy at Front Range Community College. Got my master's here in 2001. And philosophy of religion is sort of a hobby within philosophy for me. And I guess a special interest for me on the subject would be promoting some appreciation. I'm an atheist, but promoting some appreciation of the merits of some theistic arguments. Not just dismissing them so readily, and trying to appreciate that some of them can be quite sophisticated and have their merits, even if you ultimately think they failed. So just better philosophy and critical thinking in general on the issue.
I'm Sarah Powell. I have a background that was raised in a Christian home, and then I've also been in the very evangelical Christian churches. Skepticism is a more recent term for me, but I've made the decision not to question my faith.
So yeah, I'm Wendy Heath. I have a bachelor's in English here from Colorado State University. My background is in biology from Kalamazoo College. I'm an adult convert to Catholicism who didn't do it for marriage, and I am simultaneously very religious and very skeptic. I have a very mishmash of a worldview, if you will, which is kind of what prompted Kai to invite me to be on this panel today. And one of my particular areas of interest is religion as it intersects with medical ethics, as I am a nursing student at Front Range. I was supposed to give a talk at one today, but nursing school kicked my butt. So fortunately, someone was able to take my place because I wasn't able to get my presentation together.
My name is Mike Vincent, and I graduated like 5 years ago from CSU with a degree in zoology, and since then I've really gotten more and more passionate about science education on the whole. As far as my religious views, I identify as a Christian, somewhere in that spectrum towards just maybe even theist. To me, a lot of the questions of religion wind up being moot points, if you will.
All right, thank you all very much. So let's open it up for questions, if anyone has a question for anyone on the panel. Okay, go ahead.
If God created the universe and everything in it, I have a question. Who created God?
Can I take that one, actually?
Go for it.
I actually think that's a horrible response to an argument for God. You're basically saying, if that's your explanation for why there's a universe, then what's your explanation of the explanation? And then you ask, what's your explanation of the explanation of the explanation? It's certainly a perfectly good question to ask that. Ask where did God come from or whatever. But I just don't think it's an adequate knockdown of a theistic argument. And if you think about it, if we had to have explanations for explanations, we could never know anything, scientifically, theologically, or whatever.
Exactly.
So just don't just, that's, pertaining to what I said when I introduced myself. That's the sort of argument I'd like to see us avoid. Us being the atheists, it sounds like we're in the minority here. Kai would tell us about that.
I have a question for our student nurse, Wendy. The North American Nursing Diagnostic Association has an official diagnosis which worded something like deficit of spirituality. The patient is not religious. What's your reaction to having nursing consider an atheist to have a nursing disorder?
Well, what you have to understand is that the NANDA, as you refer to it, is something that's actually being phased out. A lot of the language in those nursing diagnoses is still being used. It's a framework, a reference, if you will, by which nurses are able to write different objectives and goals for care plans in order to serve their patients' needs. I think that's one particular diagnosis that you will seldom, if ever, see used precisely because it has the potential to cause so much controversy, and really what it's doing is it's casting judgment on the spiritual state of your patient, which no nurse should do. Nursing is a holistic approach which should take into account those patients which have no belief whatsoever and not consider it a deficit, and should also be able to care for those patients that are spiritual. I have actually never seen that diagnosis before. Where did you get that one? Where have you seen it used, I guess?
Oh, from NANDA.
From NANDA.
They also have a diagnosis of energy field disturbance.
Seems like they cover things pretty fairly. I mean, nursing diagnoses are different from a medical diagnosis in that they're simply a working label from which to base your care in order to best serve your patient. It's not like an official medical diagnosis in which you are labeled with that. You carry that diagnosis potentially for the rest of your life, and it has legal ramifications. A nursing diagnosis is more a reference point for nurses to communicate to each other in the provision of care. I personally think that one's pretty stupid. And it's one I would never see used, I think. I don't think that's something that any nurse I know, and I know several, would ever consider an appropriate nursing diagnosis to use unless they were in the deep south and they were convinced that their patient was inhabited by the devil and that the atheism was the cause of their pulmonary edema, if you catch my drift. Does that answer your question? It's one that I could see potentially being in the verbiage somewhere, but it's obsolete, it's irrelevant. It would not generally be used at all.
I think it's an example of nursing hierarchy being really disconnected from the word nursing.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of that. There's diagnoses that I've already seen that I would never ever use as a descriptor because it would get my patient thrown out of the hospital because the insurance wouldn't pay for it. You know, it all depends on the philosophy of the nurse approaching it, and I guess if you had a super evangelical nurse, she might use it, but she would probably be disciplined by her superiors when she got sued. Or he got sued.
I have a question about how do you guys feel that your skepticism has influenced your acceptance within religion and vice versa? Do you guys feel accepted within the skeptical community having a religion or religious people?
Well, if you don't mind, I cut in. I find there is within skepticism, there's a very strong atheist bent. And, like I said, I identify as a Christian. I'm not a real strong believer, but that being said, I definitely feel like a black sheep among skeptics. And, a lot of times I just try, and avoid the conversation. I feel like it's a conversation that winds up kind of just being circular arguments anyways. You're not going to change the fact that, yes, I do believe in a God, but I'm not going to convince you of, whether you're right or wrong on that yourself.
My experience within the religious community in terms of thinking skeptically is that, especially in the evangelical churches, that anyone who thinks skeptically is marginalized or asked to leave. Because especially in that evangelical environment, there's a certain amount of your faith is based on how much you can take just at face value without questioning.
Are you guys skeptical of your own beliefs, or does your faith give you the power to not be skeptical of your own?
That's an interesting question. I think it comes down to each individual person's religious philosophy. I'll use mine as an example. When I was 14, I sat down and actively questioned myself, questioned my faith, questioned my beliefs, said, do I really believe that there is a God? And as I have lived my life, I have had many experiences and had a chance to explore a lot of theology that has affirmed my belief in God. I think skepticism in and of itself is very closely linked to critical thinking and an ability to critically evaluate where you're coming from and get inside your own fallacies and your own strengths. And so I think in that way, being a skeptic has allowed me to become a stronger Christian and a stronger Catholic, which I know confuses the heck out of some people. Whoa. In the lab.
How often do you scrutinize your beliefs then? I mean, you did it when you're 14,
Continually.
Or do you do it should be a constant thing? What do you think?
Continually. My faith is challenged in every moment that I am alive, in everything that I do, in my job, in my personal life, in my search and rescue pursuits. I don't think there's a moment where I am not challenged to reevaluate my relationship to God, even though it may not always be a conscious reevaluation, if that makes sense.
With your own personal experience, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So your personal experience is not mine.
Correct.
So
wait, expand on that. Where were you going with that?
No, well, where I'm going with that is, how's your tolerance?
Do I feel a need to impose my own ability to critically evaluate my faith upon others? Do I feel
Compared to me, compared to him, compared to anyone?
It is my own personal philosophy that God places each of us on the path that we belong in life, and each person relates to God in a way that no other person can fully comprehend. So therefore, I have absolutely no right to tell you, oh, the way you understand God is completely bogus. Look, you got to see it through my eyes, my experiences, my lens.
Yeah.
That's completely inapplicable because God is so complex and mysterious as to be able to communicate with each individual person, or not, as the case may be, in exactly the way that they need.
Yeah, well, you know, you got to say that alien abduction is no more off base than that talking snake thing. You know, I mean, you know, you got to throw it out there. You know, so. No, I'm glad you scrutinized your beliefs. You should all.
I know.
I missed the introduction from Robert and Gabriel, so I apologize, but I'm going to assume you're all Christian. Are you skeptical about the multitude of world religions? Because you keep talking of a God, but if you look at all religions in total, there's about 50 to 60 of them.
If not more.
If not more.
No, and I mean, for me personally, you know, again, it's a very loose term. You know, my belief is it's a very intangible sort of God. You know, as a whole, you know, divine creator, architect, whatever you want to call him, her, it. You know, it's one of those things. Like for me, I just accept that it's kind of that guiding force behind the universe. You know, I don't view it as, you know, there's miracles happening left and right. I don't necessarily view battles of angels and demons and, you know, being waged on the plains of the earth and, you know, but it's...
But again, you're talking very much of a singular Christian God rather than the other multitude of gods that people do.
Well, I think for me it's just the, you know, that's the one that I relate to. You know, it's the flavor of ice cream that I prefer.
Well, for me, part of that is that Christianity is part of my cultural heritage. And so, although I can't, this is what I choose to believe, and God is not a falsifiable argument, so I can't make any judgments on other systems of belief and any other gods. But I'm going to refer to the Christian God because that's my heritage.
But surely, you know, as a critical thinker, shouldn't you also be investigating the other religions to see if there is another religion that you should fall into a little bit more easier? Because some of them are really great religions, you know.
Part of it comes back to the cultural heritage, and part of it is what fascinates me most about other religions is the similarities rather than the differences.
Okay.
I think it depends on where the individual person is in terms of studying comparative religion, which is what I